No, I did warn you guys. Uh, this one, all the arcs of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, always been intense. But personally, I think this one's because I haven't seen the other arcs after this. From arc one up until Diamond Unbreakable. I've seen a couple of times before, but you know, moving forward when I do the other arcs, and review those, I'll be going into new territory. It'll be my first time viewing those once I do those reviews. But so far, personally, I think like this arc has been the most intense because you don't get not one, but two serial killers. And like, you know, as I mentioned in my previous reviews of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, uh, from our research, like the writer has been known to be forgetful when it comes to certain characters or things that he established a while back, and like don't necessarily bring up again. Uh, but the one new thing that he brought up that he managed to stick to that became like the central theme for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is stands and like the musical themes associated with them that I thought is like one of the most creative things in anime that I've seen. That what a brilliant idea. And of course, he in the past have gotten in trouble with like you know because like well, it's not necessarily likeness, but like just name kind of thing, using an artist's name or their soundtrack or uh, just a musical name. You know, you know, he's had to deal with that, but I'm glad he managed to stick to it despite that. But yeah, so we got like some new uh, characters in this arc. And by the by, just to start off, because I just found this out literally just minutes ago, uh, uh, the voice of the main character, English voice actor of the main character, Josuke Hikaskata, Billy Comments had recently passed away from colon cancer. And like my respects to the family and friends who lost this guy, their loved one. uh you might recall him. Besides Josuke, he voiced like the roll tom thing from Pokemon. uh he did some voice work for Seven Deadly Sins, Attack on Titan, just like a plethora of stuff. And he will be greatly missed. It's just like a huge loss. Uh, a lot of people love that guy, and it's literally just very sad in the voice acting world. Uh, we get a return of Jotaro Kujo, voiced again by Matthew Mercer. Uh, uh, um, and also Joseph's Joestar. He has like a stint in this arc too. Not as active as he used to be, but he's there. Uh, Voiced again by Richard Epcar. But everybody else are new individuals. We got Koichi Hirose, uh, uh, Okuyasu Numura, Rohan Kisebe, Remy, the main overarching villain, Yoshikage Kira, It's nice to have like another Akira. We got, if you watch my uh, Death Note spoiler review that I did last October, I believe I put it out that these two are the only, from my knowledge, the only two Kiras was like a play on the word killer in anime that at least I know of. I'm pretty sure there's at least a few more. Uh, but you also got uh, 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 Angelo Katagiri, uh, Kicho Numura, the older brother of Okuyasu, Akira Otoshi, I gotta check out a second here because these Japanese names I just need to. Tomoko is like, the mother of Josuke. And how Josuke is related to the Joestars? Joseph had an affair with Tomoko, sometime after the events of taking down Dio, and that resulted in the birth of Josuke. But of course, he never knew, and that brings Jotaro to Josuke's town. Forgot what the town's Morio, to the town of Morio. And this is, of course, set in during the time of 1999. I will be just like an infant during the time this is supposed to be set. Anywho. Okay. No. When I mentioned about the creator's forgetfulness, there's a adopted Joestar, a baby that Joseph and Josuke found in this arc, who they name Shizuka Joestar. Never mentioned again after this arc, which is a shame because her stand ability is turn things invisible. By the next arc, she would have been at least, early to mid teens. We got Suichi. Well, pretty sure I got like at least the major players, but I gotta bring up the stands here because the stands are just like I said, so creative. Yeah, Okuyasu's stand called the Hand, whose ability is to his right hand can swipe in like a space, erase it, and then force things to come closer. Doesn't matter if it's just because there's one moment when he swiped at a certain space and it grazed a sign and it erased two letters out of that word and put the rest of the letters together, forcing them together. So it doesn't matter what it is. And you can bring people to him, or if he just erased a thing or individual altogether with that hand, he doesn't know where it goes. It just goes in a, probably like a different dimension altogether, but you never see it again. And the hand, of course, is, based off the musical, uh, a song, uh, the music artist, the hand, who did things like the balcony, I believe. I'm pretty sure I got that right. Okay. Then you got echoes, but in some cases called reverb, who's uh, Koichi's stand, who has like the power of sound, where you can like send, like even like well, it's Japanese, but like send words, put it on a surface, and cause an explosion of sound, like, you know push. You put the words push uh, on a person and forces them back, or puts the word bounce on, like, on a particular, like a rock, and it turns into something like a balloon, or something just inflatable that would allow for a bounce. And this one's hilarious because he goes in like 3 acts. It's like he goes through like Pokemon evolution, like a Caterpie to like a Metapod to like a full on, I mean, not like a butterfly, but a full on humanoid stand individual. Was like a final act, and like, he got like a funny voice, like three threes when he, does like a particular uh utilizes power. He even like has like a kind of like a gravity well kind of thing, where it's like, you know force pushes, things, like cause things to get like heavier. uh and he does these little quirky things called like SHIT, three threes, and it's like he usually doesn't say the word shit. He just like spells it out. I don't know. It's just a funny little thing. You got Heaven's Door, which is Rohan's stand, who is based off of I believe the, either the I'm pretty sure it's the either Knocking on Heaven's Door by MOK and Chic, uh, or Bob Dylan, or like the Guns N' Roses Knocking on Heaven's Door. Pretty sure it's Guns N' Roses. Uh, and this stand has the ability to turn individuals, kind of like reading a person's mind, but not traditionally like a psychic. It's just like turns the body into pages so you can read the person's soul. And you can easily manipulate them by writing on these pages and make them either blind or forget, or cause like do not harm Rohan in any way, forces them to just obey those particular commands. Then you got the main villains stand, Killer Queen, based off of uh, uh, Bohemian Rhapsody artist Queen. Uh, and you got like 2 particular super moves called Sheer Heart Attack and Bites the Dust. You're already familiar with like Bites the Dust, because like, you hear it from like from many movies. Which is a song from Queen. Aqua Necklace is another, like, just a early onset serial killer. It only had like 3, the first 3 episodes, but he's just like a stepping stone to a larger villain. His stand is Aqua Necklace, who has the power of water. Pretty sure that's so it doesn't seem like this one's based off any song. I just had to double check. Then you got, Okuyasu's older brother who has a stand ability, Bad Company. Just double check. Yeah, there's like a musical artist, Bad Company. And you got, another stepping stone villain, like I think like Bad Company. I mean, like no, yeah, there's three like there's many like smaller villains, but only like a couple of them are true serial killers. And both of them turned good guys later. Like, Okuyasu was like just like a thug, but turned good guy. There's Highway Star, who's like a stand of Yoya Fugami, who was like, one of bad guy turned good guy. Uh, you know, uh, see, Shigekai Kyu, who has to stand Harvest. He started off as a bad guy. Same thing with like another character, Tamamami, who has a stand the lock. Start off as a bad guy. Yukako start off as like a bad girl, but ended up becoming an ally. So you see like a theme to some of these guys, but there's only like at least three true bad guys. Anywho, yeah. So we got Akira, who's a guy stand Red Hot Chili Pepper. Oh, Bad Company is pretty much like like a kind of multiple stands, was like small soldiers or kind of like Toy Story gone bad, where all these like army men and with all these like battle toys that shoots lethal projectiles and follow like orders like a like a true military fashion. You got Red Hot Chili Pepper, who has a stand ability of electricity. Uh, the Lock, the stand ability to like kind of like weigh people down with guilt by forcing guilt on somebody. It only can be erased if that victims not feel guilty anymore. You got Surface, who is a stand that is a puppet that takes on the appearance of whoever touches him. Love Deluxe is like a hair ability, kind of like Medusa from Marvel. Pearl Jam, the stand ability of a chef. Like I said, it's like this Italian guy. What's his name again? Where is he? Angelo. Horace, Cinderella, stand user Aya, like a beautician. You got Ken's stand ability. This little kid, got stand ability of Boys to Men, who's pretty much like an energy sucker, but only does it when, or energy or soul sucker, but only gets the energy he craves to strengthen him by losing to the loser or the victim losing to a game that the Ken sets up. Usually rock paper scissors. They got like this alien that's that one is like a little weird. This I don't mind him. He's a fun character, but it's like it just kind of feels like he's thrown in at some point. Or don't know why. I mean, like he offers some aid in certain situations, but overall, I don't think he would have been needed. But uh, his name is Miki Taka, and it's just got like a superpower. Just calls alien superpower Earth, Wind, and Fire, but just like he's just like a morpher, like kind of like the T-1000, but he can like shape himself into like dice, binoculars, other inanimate objects, like like knives and stabby weapons kind of situation, but nothing, with crazy, uh, movable parts, like a bomb or something like that. Uh, Highway Star, is like a bloodhound kind of uh, ability, where he gets a scent of a particular target. He just chases him down relentlessly. Look like invisible footsteps, and it look like it's just like a terrifying, just like a thing to see. And he's like, and you see him chasing. Even if like, because Joseph had to deal with this, he was literally on like a motorcycle and he's gunning it, and that thing is just hounding him, like just really on his tail. All you hear is like it's terrifying. Uh, got like another stand, Superfly, by this, low level bad guy turned good guy, Toya Hero. What's that? Uh, oh, you got this other low level bad guy with the stand ability called Enigma, who can just turn people into paper, or people, things, even fire into paper. Uh, uh, stand user Turanowski. And then finally, probably the most like weirdest one, called Cheap Trick. Uh, Temporarily stand user Masako or Masazu, who the stand, it's, I didn't mention this in previous reviews of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but there's no, I did mention this in Diamond's Unbreakable, with Jotaro's mom, who is a stand user, but it's not like an aggressive one, to be like an active fighter. She's very passive. So despite having like a stand, her stand works against her because she's kind of passive, and without the necessary willpower to, I hate to use the word subjugate, but kind of like overpower the stand to be at the user's beck and call, the stand can turn against them. Just how you saw like when Jotaro's mom was ill for that period of the adventure. This stand adheres to the back of the user, and whoever sees this stand, that stand rips its because it's here so tightly that if forced or transferred, it rips off he will instinctually rip off the previous user's back in the process, causing them to bleed to death. and then adheres to the new victim, uh, and just be like a just like a terror onto you know onto society altogether. That was probably the most one of the most unique ways of dealing with that. Rohan dealt with that one, and it was very unique how he dealt with that. It was so clever. Anyway, on to the story. I had to cover the individuals involved and the stance. Uh, Jotaro made his way to Morio. He's a little older now. He's wearing like a white, like a white colored palette of his previous outfit, but more like a few added changes here and there. 1 second here. With a few changes here and there. He's on his way to Morio to handle some because since Joseph Joestar and Suzy Q, being also partner up with like the Speedwagon Foundation, a very wealthy family. Jotaro at this point has become a marine biologist, very smart individual. So like he, has a good knowledge of like zoology, which is like you'll never. When I first saw this arc, I never because I never read the manga, but I would never in a million years would have pictured Jotaro being like a marine biologist. Because I knew he was smart. Like I thought he may be like a detective or something like that. But no, he's so like, his knowledge of certain animal species is like he studied his butt off. He eventually gets masters and everything like that. Then on his in town, he has like two purposes. Not only he's had to deal with the affairs on behalf of his grandfather, who had an illegitimate child by another woman, and they have to deal with affairs of the wills and stuff like that. Make sure that he's fairly compensated. Despite him not knowing his lineage, he want to make sure that that affair is set right, and introduce himself, and make sure he knows of his family, and also. If you remember from the previous arc, that like this old hag had, and Dio had this special bow and arrow that if fired and hit someone, either it kills them, or if they have like an innate stand ability, that will force it out, kind of like forcing out like a mutant power. It's kind of like if you think of it like the first X-Men movie with Magneto and that tower thing, and forcing a mutant ability. Pretty much the same deal, and just as lethal, potentially, because if you are like a potential stand user, you'll be healed from the wound regardless. But there was two, and the second one wound its way into Okuyasu's older brother's hands, who've been using it to find like a potential stand user with the ability to, put his father to death, just in his mind's eye, mercifully, because he was under the thumb of Dio. And of course, Dio had always put parasitic things in his subordinates' minds just to keep them from talking, or if they betray him, he can easily kill them whenever he chose to. But because when he died by Jotaro's hands, at that same time, I guess all the parasites just went out of whack and didn't kill the host, but deformed them. Uh, I mean, you learn later he's not necessarily mindless, but he's not doesn't have complete faculties. It's kind of like very deformed uh, individual. Uh, 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 you know, Now while they trying to figure out where to find this arrow, they meet this first serial killer with like aqua necklace, and Josuke beat him. Because Josuke has his own stand ability because it's from the Joestar line. Uh, is sort of like uh you got similar qualities to Star Platinum. Only difference is between the two. Star Platinum, of course, he has like like telescopic vision and like star fingers and extend his fingers for kind of like a long range kind of attack. Uh, strong, fast, but they both work at like at the most 2 meter of like a punching effect. Uh, but Star Platinum has the added benefit of having like a to stop time for like at least several seconds, while uh, Star Shining Diamond Josuke stand, his unique ability is to heal others or things altogether. The only drawback is it cannot heal Josuke. No matter what wounds he heals, he has to heal naturally, or just go to the hospital. Uh, well, Josuke dealt with this a psychopath who told him about the guy, or at least lay down like a little uh, seeds of breadcrumbs of who, because he was on death row, and since he could not be killed by normal means because he became like a stand user, uh, uh, they eventually by happenstance found this like a seemingly abandoned house that's close by Josuke's house, and you meet like of course most of this like at least all the this arc is narrated by Koichi, who goes through like a arc, but mostly his hair goes through an arc too, because it's all flat and down. He's very meek, and then he gets over time a little bit more confident with himself, not as meek, and his hair goes into kind of sort of like like a Dragon Ball Z when things get serious and he's using his stand and he's dealing with like a battle. It gets very intense, kind of reminiscent to like uh Trunks from Dragon Ball Z, except without the blonde. Um, Only thing like I did not care for from Koichi is his he does the most constant over explaining in a Jojo series that I've seen from a character in this series. It's like, oh no, he's using like Deadly Queen to move that table, and now he's moving it from two. They use a lot of centimeters in this, millimeters and centimeters, because it's like different country. And it's like, oh no, he's moving that table 2 centimeters to the left. Look out, Josuke. Now he's separating it to like close you in. Now he's moving it up top. Like, you can see it. You don't have to narrate every little thing. That got annoying. I know like there's plenty of characters who do this in this series, but like I think it's like he was the worst when it came to that. What next? So after they dealt with the older brother, and then gaining a new ally in Okuyasu, the older brother the brothers had together have like a tragic kind of situation when it comes to their father and like Dio's interference of their family, and because this dude wreaked havoc for such a long time on probably many of families. Uh, but uh, 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 Red Hot Chili Pepper came in, kills Okuyasu's brother, and despite the brother being very like kind of very rough around the edges, deep down, because you can tell obviously he said it pretty harshly, but obviously he wanted to get his little brother clear because despite him like saying or doing certain things because he just like felt hurt about what Dio did to his father and what his father become. Uh, his heart kind of hardened, but when it came right down to it, he at the end of the day he wanted to make sure his brother stayed away and out of harm's way and sacrifice himself, or at least make sure that if anybody dies, he'd rather be him than losing his younger brother. And for a good several episodes, they hunted down Red Hot Chili Pepper and trying to find this arrow he took. Uh, but Jotaro then trying to find this dude because since he's electricity, he can just go anywhere and is having a hard time pinning this guy down. And he's just like pretty much stalking all of them. And he ends up killing Josuke's grandfather, which makes it even personal for both Josuke and Okuyasu. Jotaro ends up calling in assistance from Joseph, but Chili Pepper realized the thing, and we finally get this wannabe rock star stand user who's controlling Chili Pepper this whole time. Josuke managed to take this guy down seemingly, but he managed to slip by without their notice, somehow swim all the way to the boat that where Joseph is on to dock into Morio. And thanks to Okuyasu, managed to get his revenge on the guy who killed his brother and take that guy down. I like everyone gets their little moments with a particular villain, so it's not always Josuke handling the final blow, despite him being primarily the main lead in this. Like Jotaro was the lead in the last arc, and Joestar was the lead in the arc prior to that. Then now there's a major villain, the serial killer, and I like the way like the writer based a lot of his villains off of real life serial killers. This one in particular, Kira, he type of like if you ever watch one of those get away with murder kind of documentaries, where you see like certain serial killers who have like like trademarks, or like keeping trophies. This guy keeps like every time his nails get exceedingly long in a particular year, he keeps like a collection of those in like bottles with years marked on them. So like if they get to a certain length, he has to kill. He's like craving that, like he needs to get that. It's like something from Dexter, and then he keeps like he used to go after women in particular with like with like a particular beauty, but like more particular like their hands. And he always had this kind of thing, fixation since he was a little kid. Like when you first saw like a picture of the Mona Lisa in like a book, and he had the most lovely hands. He ripped like the page out just to see the hands in particular, and put it on his wall in his room so he can admire them. And he just like collects not both hands, but just one particular hand in particular. and carry it around with him in like his like uh satchel, or like when he's at home he's like having dinner with it, bathing with it. It just like treating like he's having like a life partner, and it's like it's bizarre. And this is like a legit like red flag true serial killer with a superpower. Uh, and one of the most deadlies, not as deadly as like the world and Dio, but he's up there. And we no, and I gotta correct myself earlier. I did see the next arc, because next arc is Golden Wind arc. I did see that a couple years back. It's the one after that with like Jolene Joestar. That's the one like I haven't seen yet. I'm keeping my eyes off of that until I'm blurry. Uh, I keep my eyes off of that for the time being until I get to that, so I can do a review. Uh, but the Golden Wind arc has a pretty deadly serial killer, of his own right, and it's hard to tell like how would I, rank these kind of villains of like how deadly they are, because they are pretty deadly in their own right. But you can leave a comment below if you've seen all the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure arcs, at least a good chunk of them. Which one is deadlier to you? Uh, but uh, of course, throughout bits and pieces, the Josuke and the gang meet up with other potential allies or bad guys who grow into allies later. But along the way, they meet up with this ghost girl, with this ghost dog, who regales them. Well, it regales to Rohan and uh, 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 Koichi, because they, went to this kind of ghost alley that isn't on any map. But if you go down that way, it's like almost like a maze. But if you go down that way, you cannot turn around. You have to remain looking forward, because it's supernatural. So there's like ghostly hands that will try to convince you, like tickle your neck or something like that, to trying to, or whisper in your ear, eerie crap, just to try to get you to turn around so they can drag you into the either hell or just afterlife in general, or whatever. Just drag you away from the earthly plane. And she cautions these guys just to get them out. In return, they have to help her stop the serial killer that killed her, because Kira was her first victim. And unbeknownst to Rohan, because he was so young, she used to babysit Rohan when he was very young, when his parents wasn't like in town. But Kira, managed to, sneak in her house, kill the dog, the parents, and then eventually her. But she managed to, before Kira found her, she managed to, I don't know, maybe it's like, he was so young, he kind of blocked it out of his mind somehow. But she managed to, you know, get him out of her, because I'm pretty sure her bedroom was like on the second floor, maybe, but somehow, safely get him, from the floor onto the ground, and like somehow get found out, or somehow he's found by somebody, and like and not by the killer somehow. uh you know but she managed to linger on, but in the process she has to horribly witness all of Kira's particular deaths. Not everybody's death, just her killer's other future victims. Like the stand user of Harvest, because he inadvertently picked up Kira's bag, who had one of his victims' hands in it. And once he finds out, like, what kind of guy he is, just to avoid being found out, he ended up killing this guy because his stand his ability is to make things explode. Uh, but thanks to uh, before he died, he had one of his stands, because it looked like little beetles. This harvest, like millions of or hundreds of beetles things. One of them managed to stay on long enough to hand a piece of evidence of like one of Kira's buttons off his jacket, and hands it to Josuke, before he crumbles away. Because when a stand dies, or either the stand or the user dies, they both die. And it was devastating to uh, the rest of the gang, because despite like you know he's kind of like a not sleazy, but it's like he's trying to like like a scam artist, trying to like trying to find use harvest to trying to find all loose change around Morio, just to you know like get rich quick kind of thing. But he was kind at heart. uh but uh once like they was turning getting close to Kira, he because there was this beautician, like I mentioned, that ran into Koichi's potential, or at least not potential, like definitely future girlfriend, but he didn't harbor feelings like that at first with her. But because she has like a crazy temper. But she worked with that beautician who had like who's a stand user too, and used her stand ability to like help with makeovers and stuff like that. He Kira ends up somehow finding this woman, or at least, well, not happenstance. He managed to one day walk by this beautician, and maybe he sensed she was like a stand user, but it's like I don't know how that was the case, because she didn't use her stand ability in front of him. There's no way for him to know she was a stand user. But he ends up going there and like uh forces her to uh give him like another guy's face, like kills that guy once the switch was made, so he has like a brand new identity, but then kills her and turns her into like a living bomb that he can has a stand, can just remotely like chillic, causing a victim to explode and bites the dust. And that is like the part the most brutal, because it's like it's kind of like Groundhog Day, where it's kind of like he set like a particular parameter, like the person he's took over the body swap with had like a wife and child that he kind of neglected, but he wasn't like a bad guy. But his son knew, his little kid knew something was up, because his father wasn't behaving like his, because the mother was clueless. He didn't wise up whatsoever. But the son was smart enough to know, like, okay, this is weird. He doesn't do this. He hates mushrooms, but he's gobbling up a plate full of because the mother made 2 plates. But he goes to sit in a particular chair where she will usually sit, and just eats the plate, that has mushrooms on it, that he knows his father doesn't like mushrooms. He refused to eat mushrooms. So it's like, it's like, little by little, he sees red flags. It's like a little detective here. But along the way, we figure out that Kira has like a ghostly dad who's like haunting like a camera, but gets trapped in like a Polaroid by Jotaro. But then he's flying around with the bow and arrow in his clutches, and turning other people into henchmen, stand users, in order to kill Josuke in his crew, but all fail. But then, like, that deadly ability Killer Queen has, he uses on the boy once he realized the boy is like, is figuring things out. He turned him to like a potential living bomb, where it's like this parameter set. You know, every morning if he tries to go to Josuke or any one of his friends, he activates the and tells them about what he knows about Kira. Uh, the 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 bomb detonates and kills anybody in the vicinity uh, uh, instantly. And then time rewinds back to that morning when he set that trigger in the first place. And that boy was smart to like, okay, he went through a couple of times and ended up killing like Rohan and Jotaro. So and time resets. And it's kind of like it's very sadistic. He like causing this little boy to relive this horrific thing and knowing that he will kill people if he opens his mouth. So he gets around that by, okay, I cannot say anything, but if I get you to say something, I'm not, I'm not breaking the rule that you set. So I found, I didn't say nothing. I found Jotaro's number in the phone book. I'm pretty sure there's like several Jotaro Higaskatas in Morio, but whatever. He, used the phone book, dials number, leaves it, off the hook, and has Josuke figure out by having Kira telling himself, as he's like, thinking that he's being candid with the boys since he already knows, but Josuke overhears, and like, once, every time he initially tries to go to Rohan in this particular spot, because Rohan's figuring things out, because they're trying to find Kira, but they notice in like several pictures that Rohan took just to, because Rohan's kind of like by the way, Rohan's like a manga artist. I really like Rohan. It's kind of like Kaiba, Seto Kaiba in a way, in my mind, the way he carries himself. But he knows all these pictures, and like this little boy is almost in all of them. So he's the link somehow, and he knows that boy is also following, using a video camera and following somebody in the crowd, and he's trying to find from like, who are you following? Because clearly you're telling somebody like I'm telling you, because you're managed to pop up in all my pictures. But as you go to the corner, instead of going directly to Rohan, he has, this gets Josuke to like find them in this particular spot on his own merit, and not by his voice alone. And it's like, I got you. I did not break any of your rules, and now you told on yourself, and therefore, the once the trigger is set, he cannot use Deadly Queen until he releases that trigger. So, in order to defend himself against Shining Diamond, he has to remove the trigger from the boy, which allows him to finally be candid as much as he wants. So this comes down to like a epic one-on-one battle between Josuke and this guy, and of course, along the way, this is like a particular kind of like a almost like a filler episode where Kira had this cat, which I'm assuming might have been a Stan user, because he shoots air bubbles, but the cat died died, and the Stan should have died. But when the cat was buried, its essence transferred to this flower, and the flower behaves like the feline, but it's uh, predatorial. So it's firing off these air bullets, and like it's like a fun little moment where you see like because like he has to keep up appearances, and his wife got hurt by this creature, and and he doesn't. He initially thought it's like, he's protecting her from like these invisible air bullets, and he's thinking like, am I, have I grown affectionate to this woman? No, that can't be. I just don't want to be. I just don't want her hurt and having Josuke figure out like what's happening. Cause a commotion and having Josuke come poking around here. But it'll be an interesting thought, like because he has to keep appearances, like play like house, but with an actual woman, not just like a corpse hand. But now, since there's an actual person giving him this affection on her own merits, even though she doesn't know the truth, and he's not like reciprocating those feelings because he doesn't have like those true feelings. As a serial killer, by and large, they don't have that kind of real empathy. Like some of the best ones knows how to like fake it, but you can argue, kind of like Dexter. You can argue depending on like, because like Dexter probably genuinely has feelings for his son. Probably the closest thing he has to like the closest empathy. And him and Deb, he has like the closest thing to the empathy that he should have as a human being. And Kira's probably had that kind of, not to that extent like Dexter, but it's like probably at that exact moment, probably like the closest he ever gotten to having those kind of feelings for another individual, but it just falls short. But he has to, kind of like outsmart this creature in order to like stop, because he can't squash it, because the it instinctively put like a strong air pocket to avoid being stomped on. So he managed to defeat it by just like treating it like any normal pet. So he puts it in like a potted soil, carries it inside in a closet, and eventually put it inside Deli Queen's stomach, so you have like a long range offensive capabilities by turning the air bullets into explosive rounds. But thanks to Okuyasu using his stand ability to scoop that thing up close to him, so that way he doesn't have a long range capabilities anymore, so no more air explosive bullets. And since his short range capabilities is jack crap, Josuke managed to like land some deadly blows on him, but he didn't kill him, but he's severely wounded. But now that all the Josuke's crew like Jotaro and Koichi is closing in, and like some passerbys and ambulance, because like all the explosives going around from the fight, causing like more people to close in on it. So he's trying to like turn this female ambulance worker, this EMT, into another bites the dust victim, just to make sure he kills as much people, including Jotaro and his crew, as possible, so he can make his escape by reversing time and start fresh. And that way he can like avoid the entire situation, or better plan out his next move. But I forgot to mention, because I'll get to it in a second. This kind of coincides with the Ghost Girl, because this gets kind of gruesome here. He's tried to triggers the bites the dust move. But thanks to the combination of Koichi's using Act 3 Reverb's ability to like force his hand down to keep him from at least for the foreseeable like moment, keep him from pulling the trigger, giving Jojo enough time to close in the distance so he can use the time stop ability to keep him from moving all entirely, so he can use his aura to beat the heck out of him to keep him like, okay, like he busted up his hand so he can't use that hand, and he just beat the hell out of him. Uh, 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 but now, in his mind, he sets off the bomb, but he's a ghost and he's trapped in the alleyway with that ghost girl who finally got him trapped and had those ghost hands because he turns around, but he thought, oh, I outsmarted her. I heard the stories, horror stories about this mysterious alley that you cannot turn your back on. But thanks to the ghost dog forcing him to like, turn around because he was hiding in the bushes, the ghost hands grab him and drags him to hell. But Rohan used like that same trick against Cheap Trick, who adhered to his back, because he tried to get Koichi, because Koichi didn't believe him at first. And it's always certain moments when characters are getting into like a situation out of their depth, and they trying to get help from one of the crew, but they don't believe them initially. And it's like, you're dealing with stands and other bizarre crap. You don't give them like a benefit of the doubt off the top. You usually come in halfway. That was weird. But Rohan had the brilliant idea to go to the ghost alleyway and trick Cheat Trick into turn around, and the ghost hands remove the stand themselves, which luckily caused him to, because he took a gamble on that, because like I'm not sure why he still didn't get, because they forcibly removed, maybe because because I believe they briefly mentioned, because uh 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 the stand has to instinctually adhere to the thing. If he's caught by surprise and releases grip, even for a moment, that avoids the ripping of the back. And that's how that was like the most brilliant way to defeat a stand out of this entire arc. But the Ghost Girl did it almost the same thing to Kira, avenging her death and many other deaths that he did, because she died 15 years prior. He was her first kill. But she had to witness throughout the course of 15 years other deaths by his hands. But now, they can finally rest in peace knowing that Kira's finally stopped. But it's kind of bittersweet because Harvest's stand user, I keep forgetting his doggone name, it was hard to pronounce anyway. The parents, by the end of this arc, the parents doesn't, because Koichi's narrating this, forcing the parents doesn't, they think like, their son just missing or a runaway, and they spend years waiting for his return, and same thing with like the boy that helped Josuke. He only one who knows the truth, but the mother is none the wiser, and she waits for the husband's return that never will come, and it's just because he dying by like because he gets wounded by Jotaro, but somehow like the ambulance, because gets karma, the ambulance, the whoever the driver was, failed to stop on time, and you see briefly, but like the tire backs up, close to the head, and it's like to go like, and then just crushes his fucking. It didn't crush it, but you can tell like that would fucking crush his skull. But he talking about like it ripped off his, face or something like that. But no, you fucking crushed his fucking skull. But justice has been served, like poetic justice at the very least. Uh, so it's bittersweet with the parents and that wife not knowing what happened to their loved one. They never will know, because how can you explain something like that? Because they don't know about stands, and it's hard to, like, you don't want to, make it worse by explaining everything, including, like stands and like this serial killer that been for 15 years under the radar of everybody for so long. It's best to let them live with, because it's best to let them live with what they think they know than shatter any kind of like, uh, facade they put up for themselves. But Josuke and Joseph come to an understanding, despite Josuke at first, he's not harboring any ill will, because he knows he didn't know about him, but he is fine not having him in his life at the same time. It's like, no hard feelings, but I don't really want you in my life, kind of thing. But he comes to more understanding and appreciation of his father, because you get that kind of same temperament, that famous Joestar temperament, from that family. Also, he always loses it when somebody makes a comment about his hair, and the reason being is because when he was like preteens, he came down with like a severe like flu or something like that. Middle of winter, his mother tried to drive him to the hospital. It was like, it was, the roads was like filled with snow, and she was, stuck. But some mysterious guy who weirdly looks like, Josuke, but you never see his face, but he had the same hairstyle. Josuke was conscious enough to see this guy, but not his face, I guess, but acknowledge, the overall attire and the hair. And the guy, complete stranger, came out of nowhere, went out of his way to help the mom out of the snow so she can take her son to the hospital and save his life. And for years, he looks at that guy as his hero, and he modeled his hairstyle after that guy who, complete stranger, went out of his way to, like, save my life. So, like, anybody who insults my hair is insulting my hero, and I will bash anybody's freaking face in for that. Which is understandable. He just completely goes into a blind rage. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe, I don't know if it's happening in like maybe future JoJo Bizarre Adventure arcs or something, or in a manga, but what if it's some kind of time travel thing, and Josuke ends up in the past, and he's that, kind of like Harry Potter, where he's that mysterious hero that he thinks is somebody else, but it's actually him from the future, and he is the one who has to be the one to save, and he's the mysterious hero with that hairstyle. That would be something. But Morio is safe, despite the comrades they lost. They managed to overall save the town, have some new allies in the process, and and live their life, normal, without, all this craziness now. So that's the end of the arc of I keep barking on Diamond Unbreakable. But anyway, let me know what you guys think of the arc overall. Eventually, I will get to Golden Wind. Well, I got other stuff waiting in the winds that I really want to get to before I come across that again. But anywho, I will see you guys soon. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff to the links in the description. And